Before I rant, the movie starts here. This is actually my first movie, so if you like it, definitely let me know, whether by comments or analytical. Also, the link to my Discord is in the description. It's always active, we sometimes do server events, and I will be hosting a Terraria chess tournament with a prize pool of $100. A pop-up for that video should be here. Definitely check that out. Welcome to part 1 of the Tri-Class run. I start off my run making my character. Every run I do tends to have a theme, and this one's is
Shadow Wizard Money Gang. This song is sponsored by the Shadow Government.
I decided this run would be on export and also decided to use the celebration seed because it sounded fun to try. Here's my depressed sounding first reaction. The Shadow Government. Okay. The text is not usually pink. Yes, that's what I sound like when I'm not warmed up. Like any good Terraria YouTuber, I immediately ruined any force I came across and talked to the princess. I've never had the princess, but I do know she sells some useful things on this seed especially. I then noted I'm on the side with the dungeon and began spelunking underground. The idea was to get as much ore for armor as I can to at least get some defense for melee and ranger. Mage I had separate plans for. I then broke some skulls for loot. I thought the rainbow trees and the corruption were pretty until... Uh-oh. Oh, come on. There's just no one. What the heck is that? My man is a wad of bubblegum. For the second time in my Terraria career, I made a full set of wooden armor. I immediately began spelunking again. The beginning was the most treacherous only because of how much prep I needed to do just for the first boss. If even one of my classes failed, it was over for that fight. I went home and figured I'd need a base for the night. With my treasure, I crafted a pickaxe, the superior kind of sword, and a bow. With the horrible prefix. I returned to underground when I saw something in the distance. I killed the crawdad and a bat soon after. The chest ended up having 2 spelunker potions, which fueled my greed even further beyond. I returned home and smelted all my bars, made a gem hook, a gold crown, and upgraded my pickaxe. Twice. Since my inventory was looking like a Pop the Pig, I knew it was time to make an actual base. As I made it, I figured each major biome should have a theme after a class. For the ocean, I made it Stardust since the sand was cyan. Everything was starting to come together, but I knew I wasn't close to done. I found a magic mirror with some more useful gold. I saw the traveling merchant was in town, so I activated instant kill mode for his hat. I didn't have any pylons yet, so I made a super long track across a chunk of the world for them. Because of this, I came across a biome that kinda looks like cherry trees, so naturally I looted that joint in search of the Moonlord's legs. Although I didn't find them, I did remember that this seed gives everything in chests basically the best reforges. This easily made reforges in early game a cakewalk. Then, I finally found my first mage weapon, the Wand of Sparking. I've never used it, but it's not only gotten a recent buff, but it can also be upgraded now. Oh, and it has a good modifier, of course. I traveled further to the left and hit up the pyramid, which is a game changer for 2 reasons. 1, money, and 2, the chest. Not only did I get a flying carpet, but I can shimmer the pharaoh's clothing into 2 more if I wanted to for my other loadouts. After leaving my pyramid, I look at the trees from the Lorax and find that my world has no crimson. I thought the seed was supposed to have both, but I guess not. At least I got a ton of stars for my mage loadout on the hike though. Now that I had gotten a finch staff from the large trees, I officially had a weapon for every class. Technically, I'm still a tri-class, just Summoner is passive and on the side. But to be honest, Summoner sucks and I didn't want to play it. I ventured back to the living trees in order to make houses, and I had to remove the walls the hard way to make it work. You may ask why I didn't use dynamite, but that's because the blocks are painted, and it would look tacky if I just placed the wood back. But then a blood moon hit, which is actually a good thing. If I could get a shark tooth necklace for all 3 classes, why wouldn't I? Plus, the princess was doing all the heavy lifting for me anyways. Ultimately, I got 2 bloody tears, which is probably better in the long run. For a change of pace, I expanded my arsenal with shadow orb drops. Like a child that got socks for Christmas, I put on a fake smile and nodded. I then popped a random teleportation potion and found out the shimmer biome was on the entire left side with all of its mini pools. I needed life crystals anyways, so I figured, why not? I cleared out the dungeon monsters and got my reward, a menacing Band of Regen. This is my 4th one. Shortly after, I found my first pair of boots, but that raised the point. Do I need 3? Who should I give it to if I don't? Would I be willing to fish if I only found 1? I ignore the voices in my head and find yet another Band of Regen, but this time warding. Even better than that, I found a straight up heart statue. I dodged the trap like Indiana Jones and catch YouTuber viewer syndrome, while I'm screaming at my screen like, how the hell did you miss that? It's right there. Unfortunately, my screaming continued when the goblin decided to invade. Sadly for them, I put them off like homework, but by not finishing the task, it loomed over my head so I wanted to finish it. Make sense? It went about as much as you'd expect. The princess took care of it. I quickly found the tinker with the help of a hunter potion and bought the workshop and just 1 pair of rocket boots for now. At this point it got repetitive with the mining, but I did end up finally getting max health. And more, it seems. However, I did end up finding another pair of boots thankfully. For the sake of fun, I decided I would build melee with defense, ranger with crit, and mage with the arcane forges. However, for part 2, should I instead make ranger movement speed? Let me know down below. I went underground again, but this time I was going for a set of jungle armor. Once I get this armor for mage, it's mostly set for pre-hard mode. Although I did get what I needed, I was sent home early for starting a food fight.
With a mace.
When sent home, I enjoy my freedom and harvest my diamond farm to make myself a much better hook. I wanted to make a diamond staff too, but I guess that's just behind the paywall, huh? Rubies aren't my birthstone, but it's okay. Since I was fleshing out each class, I took a trip to the desert to get fossil armor for ranger. This was previously throwing armor, but has been rebranded in 1.4. I was also able to craft bone javelins, which inflict a debuff that stacks. Everything was going well, until you came along. Now I had a choice. Try to fight the A now, or ignore it. I ignored it. So I went home and crafted a set of jungle armor and a set of fossil armor. Unfortunately, I forgot about our little friend. Literally. I didn't know the seed did this, but I was adamant tight on beating the eye now. First up was melee, and looking back I could have easily tanked since it was first phase, but I did try to keep my range. Next was ranger, and the javelins not only did great damage, but they were easy to land, even with the eye being much smaller. The only downside was defense and the fact these javelins couldn't pierce the servants. Soon enough, the eye went into phase 2. This sucks for mage because the bolts of the ruby staff were slow and mage was my squishiest loadout, but we had more than enough mana to finish the job. Because it did not have boots, I gave the shield to melee. Yet suddenly, a slime raid occurred which allowed us to get, well, nothing but brownie points, really. Oh, King Slime was approaching me. I guess he didn't know I beat the Moon Lord and Calamity using a true melee spear. My debut as co-owner of the channel. God, I still got fake cough. My debut as co-owner of the channel. Anyway, since King Slime was a huge target, the javelins were like mini daybreaks stacking their debuffs, and Mage literally cleared out the floor with King Slime with it. After that, I decided it's finally time to shimmer some vital upgrades and transmute for some ingredients and accessories. I get the vital crystal, ambrosia, mana upgrade, and some other useful ingredients. All before shimmering myself like a doofus. I got myself another flying carpet and dipped. I felt like I was ready for the Eater of Worlds, so I made an arena. He was noticeably smaller, so I knew he'd be harder to hit. And well, this was bad because he had no problem hitting me. Needless to say, I died. On the second attempt, I basically complete melee in a matter of seconds. I realized I dealt way too much damage and immediately switched to ranger. I guess I'm fighting it underground now. He started splitting, so I tried to keep it to a minimum. With the amount of segments the Eater has, the fight was easy with so many hearts and stars at my disposal. And now, it was time to reveal my ace card for the Eater fight. Yep. The Worm Shredder itself, Vilethorn. I've never had the chance to use this weapon, since I always choose the better World Evil, so it was satisfying to see the Eater couldn't even touch me. With that, the eater fight was over and I got another accessory for melee. I upgraded my pickaxe and made 2 pieces of shadow armor for melee. I made a new world so I could experience the fight with the brain and get the accessory as well. I found the nearest heart and immediately started to build an arena. It went about as much as you'd expect from melee with so much piercing, even if I had to stay close. Since I was playing Ranger next, I only had to clear the rest of the creepers and leave Mage for the brain. But there was a huge problem. I frequently ran out of mana, so next time I used the Crimson Rod for extra knockback and kept more mana stars around, as well as using a weapon that used less mana. Just like that, the brain stopped raining. I could have gone for Hellstone right after, but I wanted to try to kill Queen Bee. So I made my arena and... I'm starting to notice a pattern with bosses on the scene. For this fight, I decided to start off with Mage, so I started with all my mana instead of a majority of it. It was hard to hit Queen Bee when she was 3 times faster than the bolts, but I managed. Ranger was no easier, and I had to capitalize off when she dashed at me or stood still. Despite how much melee struggled in this fight, my plan to use the tanky class last was almost successful. But the aggression was just too much for melee to bear. With that being said, I hold the L and mine the Hellstone with a grain of salt, knowing I was too lazy to make a summon for a refight for now. I ended up forgetting to refight her anyways, so next was Skeletron. I scooped some obsidian and returned back home, involuntarily. The first thing I made was a full set of molten armor for melee. This loadout was practically done for pre-hard mode. Thankfully, Mages was about to be too. I scoured the world to find a meteor, and I had so much fun mining it, time flew by and I was making an arena for Skeletron. I was pretty confident going into this fight since I had no live stream chat to make me laugh and mess up. I snagged my potions for the fight and realized that I needed more than I thought. I wait till night to make sure it's not a blood moon and start to tango. Melee had a tougher time hitting the hands, but that was easily solved with true melee. Ranger had a very easy time even when I forgot I had Hellfire arrows, having decent defense and a lot of DPS. How did he grow his skull back? I enter the dungeon, dungeon, and get a key from a random skull. Since I know the Muramasa is always in the first chest, I nab it first. I also snatched up an alchemy table since I'll be making potions for every class, as well as a bewitching table for summoner. I then got a shadow key and realized I should hit up hell too. But first I made Necro armor to make sure the Ranger was set, and I gathered Knight's Edge materials. I gathered more Hellstone for the final ingredient and melee was about to be ready. I got a Hellwing bow when I was in hell, so now Ranger was ready. Oh yeah, it's all coming together. I got a Flower of Fire for Mage and thought it was nifty, so I kept it. I made the volcano and made the Knight's Edge shortly after. For a breather, I decided to build the Ranger Tower for the jungle pylon. I then noticed the sky looked unusual. Was all the Skeletron heads bad omens? Bad to the bone? Since we're so close to the edge of the world, the game plan was to fight the wall from it and kill it before we hit the buildings. That way, we needed no prep but a water walking potion among others. My flame lash was acting up, so I followed it to find a voodoo demon. Having gotten it so fast, I prepared for the wall and grabbed my best potions.
I am going into battle, and I want your strongest potions.
I kicked off the fight as melee since I had the least mobility and saw that, of course. Knight's Edge put in work, but ultimately it meant nothing if Mage didn't do their part. Because Mage wasn't a team player, I spent around an hour getting another doll. Eventually I did get one randomly. I prepared my best potions. Again.
My potions are too strong for you, traveler.
This time I used the Flower of Fire in my back pocket and had mana potions, but... The fireballs were barely hitting the wall. Since I was out of some of my best potions, I set up a farm so I don't run dry on certain ingredients. I also fished for endurance potions, which reduced all damage I take by 10% so mage could live longer. I returned back to hell, but when I wasn't recording, I found my mage weapon, the Demon Scythe. Defies gravity, pierces, and deals great damage. After finding one more doll, the Shadow Wizard Money Gang was ready to rumble. For the third attempt, I grabbed my strongest potions, buffed, and this is how the fight went. Please enjoy. Now that the Death Sandwich was defeated, we were officially in hard mode. Oh Magic Treasure Bag, tell me which class I should focus on next episode.